Oh, I can see it now. I can hit record. Oh, you are.
I think I got it. Sorry about that, Blake. Um, all right, a little bit of technical difficulties. Bring us back.
No problem.
I also wanted to mention something that I thought about with this slide is that, like,
Mhm.
before you get to this point that you can set your tools in order, I think there is this process that you have to go through, and just figuring out what the best tools are for you and the job that you are doing. And that can take some time. Like, I am still buying snips and seeing if they are the best ones for me, or getting harvest knives and, figuring out when I want to use them and on what product. So it can take some time to figure out like what the best tools are for you to do it. And then once you get them, putting them in the place where you're going to use them.
Mhm.
Is a great practice. So
Yeah, not only what tools, but also how to maintain them and clean them. Having a system for that and sharpening, making sure that you have a system in place for how to sharpen your knives as well. So I think we're good on this one. And shine. So this is an example of before S and after S. The photo on the right, you'll see that there's concrete flooring. There's stainless steel equipment, which makes it easy to clean and sanitize. And something with food safety that's really important is understanding that concept of cleaning and sanitizing. So when you come in to clean, you are using detergent, you're removing any debris. When you come in to sanitize, you are sanitizing that surface, making sure that microbially speaking, it is free of any pathogens. So that's sort of what you want to keep in mind when you are looking to clean and shine a space. So neat, clean, tidy space also motivates workers, and it's easier to see what you're doing. You can kind of come in, this being a wash pack station, it's a pleasant work environment, and it just is helps facilitate food safety overall in your operation. And standardize. This I have a lot of personal experiences when I used to farm of how important it is to standardize. I'm just thinking about how a lot of you have shared your experiences, like a cut flower farm, harvesting ginger, all these things. When you're, especially when you're working with volunteers and you have other employees that you're working with, standardization is so important because you can tell somebody to go harvest a bunch of carrots and then you'll tell another person and they'll come back and they're two different looking bunches, so what you think is what looks good may not be actually the standard that you want to have in mind. So defining rules for maintaining the first three S's that I mentioned and visual controls. An example of that is having a photo of what your wash pack station should look like rather than write up, an SOP that has SOP, standard operating procedure, that has a bunch of text. Just put up a photo, laminate it, hang it up so that your workers and your volunteers and whoever else is on the farm that is managing that space knows what it should look like when they're done at the end of the day. And this is, it applies in a lot of different areas. So the photo on the right is a sandwich shop and it's easy to take a look. You don't have to memorize what goes in each sandwich. You can kind of take a look and know what comes in what order. And that's just a form of standardization so that all sandwiches look the same and then all bunches of carrots look the same. So
I
next,
would
oh, go ahead.
I would love to just reiterate something that you said about standardizing bunches. Chelsea said she's working at River Queen Greens, and I worked at River Queen Greens last year when COVID hit. But I remember Cheryl, who is one of the owners of River Queen Greens, when I first started working with her, like we went out to the field. She was with me. We like for beets, for example, and we like harvested a bunch of beets together. We like held it in our hands, felt like what that felt like. And she just like made sure that I had a visual for what it should look like. I had a like physical touch for what it would feel like. And it just made it a lot easier to know how I was going to do that for her, for future harvests. And then she didn't have to come with me out to the field every time to make sure that I was harvesting everything okay. So I think um, that taking that extra step to provide a visual can
Mm-hmm.
be nice.
Yeah. The best situations that I've been in, both like trying to be a manager or supervisor, and then also the one being managed or supervised, like when somebody gives me an example, it really goes a long way.
I also remember, Yolanda, you telling me that Elliot Coleman knew
Mhm.
how long everything took him on his farm, or how long everything should take. So every task he knew how long that should take. And I'm not saying that to like turn all of you into like cogs in the system of capitalism or whatnot, but I'm saying that because I find it very valuable to be able to plan my days. Like, I know when I go to the farm and I'm planting out a bunch of 128s, it's going to take me about this much time, so I can plan my day accordingly. um,
Mhm. Yeah, and I want to go back to that saying that we said earlier about how 94%, I'm going to get the quote wrong, but 94% of problems come from the system and 6% come from the worker. So if something is taking a long time, it could also be training. So in my case, Elliot knew how long it would take to harvest a bed of spinach. And when he saw me do it, he would point out exactly, what I was like, what I could tweak. And so it was like basically reducing motion waste. Well, if hold 10 leaves in your hand, you'll be able to move faster because you're not putting, two leaves every time. You're putting 10 into the bucket. So things like that. All those little kind of changes add up.
I love that, reducing motion waste.
Yeah. And sustain. So um, essentially carrying out the other previous S's that we talked about. How do you ensure that those other S's are going to be sustained on your farm, that everyone understands and they practice the rules consistently, and that workplace organization just becomes a habit? A lot of this goes back to proper worker training, using performance measures to monitor progress and maintain gains. So, kind of understanding in your head how long something should take, and always kind of looking at systems and trying to think of ways to improve them so that you can shorten those times as well, and writing up your SOPs. This is particularly important when it comes to food safety. Let's say in your wash pack station, you want to post up some SOPs about sanitizing your water or something like that, then you could have a step-by-step guide that shows you how to do that. You can mark out how much sanitizer is needed per how many gallons of water, and so forth. So that's just an example of the importance of lean farming in general when it comes to food safety. And feel free to chime in if you have anything else to add about that connection.
Yeah, I think, Yolanda, you will lead us in an activity, but I'm going to do spaghetti
Mhm.
mapping first. But I do think this is a good point, y'all. If this is bringing up anything for you, or you see any of this happening on your farm, we would love to hear it.
Mhm.
Erin, I see your hand up.
Oh, you're muted. Oh, okay.
So one of the things that comes to mind with the tool issue, this is a big thing that I experienced was just constantly leaving my tools somewhere, and of course a tool belt helps that, but I found that something as simple as making sure that my tools have bright colored ends just made the reduction of losing tools that much better.
Mm.
So, like bright yellow, everything has to be bright yellow so I don't lose it.
That's actually an example of mistake proofing. So you're using a visual control so that you're able to, without a lot of effort, be able to identify where your tools are in the field if you do misplace them. So it is definitely a lean technique.
Look at you, Erin. You're already doing it.
You're already doing it.
No, that's great.
It's just putting language and concepts around what we kind of already know instinctually is a good way to work efficiently.
Mhm.
Next slide.
Yeah, I think the next slide brings us into spaghetti diagram. So I'll talk about this quick, and then we'll kick it back to you for standard pig. So another tool that we want to offer to all of you is this idea of a spaghetti diagram. So that is essentially mapping out your space. And I think that you can do this on many different levels. I think you could map out your whole farm. I think you could map out your irrigation system, which is a requirement of the produce safety rule if you are covered. But my guess is that probably most people here are not covered at this point. And then you can also map much smaller places, like maybe your wash and pack area, maybe your where you pack your CSA boxes, if that is something that you do, or like do your market prep or something like that. But you're basically tracking the movement and interaction of the people in the space and also the product in the space. So how do, and that is what there, you'll see there are two different lines. So one line was for the human working in this space, and then the other line was for the product that moved through this space. And if you can do this, you might find ways that you can minimize the amount of steps that you have to take. And if you do that, then you're going to be doing that task faster, and you're probably going to have better flow of the product, which can be safer, because typically when you are processing your produce in your wash and pack space, for example, you want to be moving things from dirty to clean, and you do not want them to be overlapping, because that point of overlap is where you can get cross-contamination from the dirty produce to the clean produce. So taking the time to map out your space can just show you where you might have some points that you want to attend to, where things could just be safer, clearer, or you can be moving faster. There was some homework that went with this workshop, but I know that you all didn't get to it, which is totally fine. But I would encourage you, that could be a place to start, is to just take one activity that y'all do and to time yourself doing it, and then to also map yourself moving through the space that you're in while you do that activity, and just see what comes up. And, you know, you might have to rearrange the setup of your tables in order for it to flow easier, but that's also a valuable thing to realize coming out of this. And that is also why wheels can be so valuable, I think, too. So if you have the ability to put things on wheels, I say take it. I know that can be harder. Like, my farm is entirely wood chips, so wheels are pain in the butt. Like, they're not going to get me very far. But yeah, just something to consider, especially wash and pack space where you maybe have a concrete floor that you can move through. And I also think something else I want to mention here that could like go on the map is like, where is your water source? Or maybe electrical too, because that can just help you know where is best to set up the tables, and where maybe you want to start with the dirty produce and then get to the clean produce. And don't be afraid to have lots of spigots if that is an option for you, if you're ever in the position where you're like building a new washer pack house. Does anyone have any questions about this, creating a spaghetti diagram?
Oh, Erica, you're speaking, but I think you're muted.
Yes, I am running through the movements. In this diagram that you drew, which would you say is the person and which is the product?
I did not draw this, and I think Yolanda, I'm not sure if this one came from you or from Ellen, but it came from a lean like a different presentation, so it is not the best, and maybe we should switch this picture for the future. But I am guessing that the green is the product. Yolanda, would you think that that is the case too?
Yeah, I don't think they're necessarily two separate things. I would think of it more as like, if this was the before, the after would look like a circle in some way. So it kind of just would show you how you are kind of going back and forth, but then the final product, something that would be leaned out, would be something that would just have a better flow overall. But and the video that we sent it illustrates that point very well, and you'll see that if you do watch that video. And if we have a few minutes at the end, I'm happy to do it together as a group. That's up to you, your call, Maggie.
I appreciate that. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. There's one more question, Erin, if you want to unmute yourself.
So essentially what you could technically do is, it's almost like the way Ford revolutionized the, automobile industry. Like you're trying to build your farming Ford plant, almost like really standardizing this step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and like just moving in that circular pattern, essentially, right?
Exactly. No, you nailed it. And it's funny that you say Ford, because lean is heavily used in TPS, Toyota production system. And so it's used heavily in manufacturing. So yeah, that's exactly in line with the origins.
If no other questions right now, we're going to move to the next slide, and that will be standard twig.
Great.
Oops, there you go.
So maybe we'll just take a quick minute to stretch too, as we're nearing the end here. But thank you all for participating. So this is a game. So just to give you a bit about my background, we say lean farming is essentially like cutting waste or cutting the fat. You're basically making your operations leaner. And my background is working for state government, and this is something that was an initiative with state government, was to do more with less, right? Diminishing budgets and financial constraints and trying to maximize production with your workers. So we would do this, we would hand out a paper copy of this game, but this is the first time that we're doing it virtually, which is always an adventure. So I really appreciate everyone bearing with us. So yeah, paper. So if it is available to you, I would love for everybody to take out a piece of paper. And Maggie, maybe you just want to show up what that paper should include, or go to the next slide and I'll show everybody what that looks like.
Yeah, and also I took a piece of paper and divided it into 3 because there will be 3 iterations, but 3 pieces of paper is also a possibility. Yes.
Yeah, either or.
Take us to the next slide. Here we are.
Yeah, so you kind of want to do like a tic-tac-toe board, but it's basically this grid system. And in each of the steps, I'll give you directions for what to do. So in this first step, we basically want everyone to draw a picture of a pig once you have this grid. And I'll time everyone so you'll hear, I'll give everyone about 45 seconds to a minute. And feel free to start whenever you can. You'll hear a little alarm go off once the time is up.
I'm sorry, is the grid on the whole across 3 pieces of paper or just 1?
Whatever you have access to. If you only have 1 sheet of paper, then you can divide that into 3 pieces like what Maggie did, and then draw a grid on each section.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I did. Am I muted? What am I?
No, you're not.
Sorry. Yes, just like 3 different tic-tac-toe boards.
Yeah. So 20 seconds. Okay, time's up. So if you can all share with me your lovely pig drawings. Great. Wow. Wow. So impressive. Wow.
Artists in this group, that it's really coming out.
Yeah, that's really great. Well, they all look similar, but they're not quite the same, and I would like to standardize them a little bit. So if we can go to the next slide, we'll provide some instructions to help you do that.
Sorry that it's a little blurry, but
Can everyone read that? Okay, like either do a thumbs up or you can do a reaction or just unmute. Okay. And I'll give you another minute. $18 seconds left. Okay, time's up. If you all can show off your pig. Great. Nice.
Dang.
Okay. Let's see. Let me see if I can put it in gallery view. Great. Nice, Erica. I see yours, Maggie. Awesome. So that's a bit closer, but not quite. They don't all look the same. So I'm hoping with this next set of directions, I'll start the clock. Maggie, yep. So you all have 30 seconds to complete this task. Time starts now. And if you're done, feel free to put it up right to the camera. Okay, time is up. So let's see your pigs. Nice, good. Those all look very standard. Good job, everyone. So feel free to either put in the chat box or to unmute yourself, but I would love to hear what you thought of the activity and how you think this applies to lean farming. Just remember to unmute if you are going to speak. Or just any impressions. Was that easy, hard, fun, boring?
I would just say standardization. It's probably the biggest takeaway I got from it.
Yeah. How can you see this applying to a farm setting?
I can only really give engineering answers at this point, but that's kind of what we do entirely. I mean,
yeah.
You know, you spoke on manufacturing. This has so many parallels with manufacturing engineering that I found, and we're constantly trying to do this. So this makes a lot of sense to me. Just maybe not in the farming world, but
yeah, totally. Erica, you have your hand up.
I would first like another opportunity to see everybody's papers because I was giggling so much that I didn't really get to see if people feel that's funny. But I thought that this emphasized what that man just said about standardization and how if we make sure that the directions are as clear as possible, that there's not much confusion. I think it's about lowering the confusion and making it, you know, this simplistic technique. I thought it was very engaging, and if it's the first time on the internet, I'm not sure how it usually runs, but I thought it was fun to participate with.
Oh, good. Thanks for the feedback. Yeah, and as you notice, I only gave you 30 seconds for that final round. So that task was completed in a more efficient um, time effective manner. So Erin, you have your hand up.
I found what else made a really big difference for me was you immediately gave a visual example with a grid on it. And like, as soon as I saw that, like, yeah, I can do that. I'm trying to read these directions in 30 seconds and get it together and understand where the W's and the M's go, and was not succeeding. So, you know, it's kind of something I just learned in the PSA grower training is like, visuals, and just like you said, Maggie, at River Queen Greens, just make a huge difference of giving like an actual visual example for making people be able to learn and do it faster.
Exactly. Yeah, so you can do this on your farm in your wash pack station if you have a series of photos kind of talking about either what the wash pack station should look like, or if you're trying to give a step-by-step guide on instructions of how to sanitize something. All these things apply. So visuals go a long way. Next slide.
Erica, your hand's still up. Did you have another question?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
No, I think it's remaining, but just wanted to double check.
Great.
This is you, Yolanda. And then
so me, I was looking at the agenda. I wasn't sure if we were going to switch off.
Is that okay? And I'll do.
No, that's totally fine. That's fine. So in addition to visual controls, I love mistake proofing because you can do this on the farm in your daily life. And this shows up in a variety of ways. When you think about it, when you are filling out, let's say you have a CSA and you want your members to fill out a form, making something required so that they can't continue on to the next page until they fill this out. You know, maybe you need their contact information or you need their credit card information to process that transaction, whatever it is. That's an example of mistake proofing. In addition to that, also creating an extra CSA share if you always happen to be short one, maybe just preempt that by having an additional one just in case. But this can also be found in everyday life. So sizing of gas pump nozzles so that you don't accidentally put the wrong nozzle in that outlet. And I'm sure in engineering, you see this all the time. Monitoring and cooler and freezer temps. So this photo is actually an app that if the sensors that are monitoring environmental conditions go below or above a certain temperature or range, then you're alerted of that. And then that way you prevent your mistake proofing. You're preventing your vegetables from either not getting too much refrigeration or not enough. So that's definitely a way to kind of mistake proof your cooler area. I talked about drop down menus and glass encased fire alarm so that you don't accidentally walk past it. So these are all just sort of examples of ways that you can eliminate the opportunity for defects and failures on your farm.
I would also love to just come back to this drop down menu because I think a big part of the produce safety rule, the FSMA's produce safety rule, is record keeping. And so how are you going to keep records on your farm? And using Google Forms and creating drop down menus, I think, is a really awesome way to do that, and helps with this mistake proofing, because when you enter in, you know, however you set up your Google form, but like whatever you want to keep a record of that day, if you have it auto-filling to a spreadsheet, it's going to give you the date and time, so you know exactly when that happened. It will all go there. You can, you know, sign that at some point to just prove that you have looked over it. And so Bree and I have been talking a ton about how Google Forms can help us with the things that we are doing on our farm. So I just want to plant that seed in case it is useful to all of you.
Yeah, totally.
And I'll take it.
Oh, this is another example. So we have CRAFT over here in New York City, and CRAFT stands for Collaborative Regional Alliance for Farmer Training. And there's actually chapters all over the country. So it's sort of a similar peer-to-peer networking group. And we did a CRAFT event 2 years ago at Square Roots. This is the same farm that is the container farm. And they basically created this seeding tray system so that you can kind of pile on your seeds. They go, you kind of shift the plexiglass and they all go into their own space, and only one seed can go per plug. So that's kind of a way to make sure that you're maximizing each seed packet so that you're not putting multiple seeds and then having to thin it out later. And you're creating a system that's reducing motion waste because it's only one pull as opposed to dropping in the seed in each hole every time. So this is one way that they were able to reduce the time that it took to complete this task. Next.
Well, I'm gonna take it from here, and you'll just offer some, I guess, yeah, try to offer some starting points for this. And also in this will be some pictures of just what other farmers are doing too. So when I was first thinking about where to start, I was like, well, what do I do on my farm? And I think about it from the perspective of what would make my life easier. I'm constantly thinking this in like everything that I do. So what would make my life easier, and how can I make that happen? I also think like thinking from the perspective, what are you doing all the time already? And so let's start from that and see if you can make it a little bit easier to move through that activity. And then when I was brainstorming with Bree, she brought up this question: what is my least favorite thing to do on farm? So there is something on the farm that is not your favorite activity. Maybe that is the first one that you want to think about through this lane framework, so that you can, have a system for it, know what you want to do, move through it, and then you are on to the things that you find much more enjoyable on your farm. I also wanted, this is a picture of a harvest bin, and actually River Queen Greens uses these bins too. That's where I got the idea, but you'll notice that it has these little holes on the side of them, and that I love because my harvest knife and my scissors fit right in there. So it's great to bring out to the field. And that, from a produce safety perspective, is a lot safer than actually having like a sheath on your belt in which you are going to put in your harvest knife and take it out all the time. Because usually those sheaths are leather. Maybe you can get them in a cleanable material, but they're generally pretty hard to clean. So I have found that these bins are, one, easy to clean than a lot of them, especially the like collapsible crates. And they also have a neat little spot for my tools that I need. So, and then these are some examples. So these next few slides are also the ones that we pulled from a focus group we did with Ellen Polishuk. And she is all for processing as much as possible in the field. If you can do that, you are touching your produce less, and you are bringing less dirt back with you to the pack shed. It's kind of hard to see, but she put an X through this picture because she is not a fan of harvesting all the beets, laying them out, then somebody comes back through and makes all the bunches. You're bending over. That's hard on your body. So can you harvest that handful of beets, create a bunch, put it in the bin, and then bring it back to, this is some sort of crazy
root washer.
root washer or whatnot, but like, and then move your product through there. Or maybe you just have a spray gun that you spray off each bunch. That's what I do with green onions, like cut off their crazy hairs, bunch them, and then take them back, and I just spray them off vigorously. And she is also a huge fan of cleaning the fields as you go. So if you, for example, have a bunch of chard that you need to harvest, focusing in a tighter area, getting all the leaves there that you can that are going to go into your bunches, and also pulling off the yellow leaves that no longer serve you and could probably are only a hazard at that point, right? They might introduce, whether it is plant pathogens or pathogens that cause foodborne illness to your plant. So clean as you go, because chances are you're not going to want to go back and clean out the field after you've done all your harvest. Do it while you're there. Let's see. So this is a few images for what Ellen thinks of as lightening the load. So wheels, we've already touched on that. If you can have wheels around to help you move produce or your CSA boxes, again, that's easier on your back. I think anytime you can get retractable, what do I want to call it? These are, I don't know, some sort of like holder so that you can have a retractable thing for your hoses and your extension cords. I think that's a great practice too, because it also keeps those things off of the floor. And in a wash and pack space where you are walking and there's dirt, you don't want your hoses and any cords that you're using to get on the floor, because there is also a greater risk of them picking up some pathogens, probably listeria in a patch house, but and then that is then a risk to your produce. I think I also mentioned this, the idea of having lots of spigots so that you can get water where you need it, or you can reconfigure if you need it. And I also want to make a plug here. You'll see that there are, in this picture, two different kinds of bins, but that looks a lot different than my farm where I have like 17 different types of bins. And I think it just creates neater, it is more stackable. Like those all fit together when they're not being used. And I think it's kind of impossible on a farm to have one harvest bin that works for everything. But if you can find the few that work for you and stick to those, you'll just be able to better figure out a system for dealing with those, for cleaning those or whatnot. Erin, I see your hand.
I just had to make a small joke. So it's very much also like Marie Kondoing your farm.
I was gonna say that. That's so funny you said that. Yeah. Yeah.
The standardized like storage bins, like all that is so the organizational movement that's just taking the world, sweeping the world right now. So yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I also think Ellen loves to call this part of her farm the bushes, and that is where she puts all of the things that she does not need in the moment, but thinks she might have a use for in you know, like sometime in the future. So I want to say, like, maybe there is a designated place on your farm where you can kind of shove all this stuff that you don't need all of the time, but you're not ready to let go of soon. I also, this is a picture of a bubbler here. So that is just like, that bubbler moves a lot of greens quickly, and then you're able to, you know, pack them up in a much faster way than you would if you had to, you know, manually move them from sink to sink. So maybe you're not at that point yet, but something to aspire to. And then I think that these harvest carts are great. They're one, off the ground, so less dirt on your harvest bins. There is shade, and we all know in Louisiana, like, you got to be out there harvesting very early, especially in the summertime, because that heat gets into your produce and then it gets all wilty. So can you create shade for your produce while you're harvesting? And it's also accessible from all sides. So looks like there's a team of people that are out there harvesting, and some people might be in one field and some people might be across the way in another field. So then they can come and, you know, be loading it from all different sides. And I also want to make a plug for having someone, and that someone might be you, but thinking one step ahead. So is somebody there to count out all the rubber bands that you might need for your bunching? Or is there somebody who can, let's see, maybe there's somebody on the farm who's going around and like picking up full harvest bins and offering empty harvest bins. Again, that might be a different scale than you're at right now, but just things like that, like getting one step ahead of yourself so that you are, you know, you're prepared for what comes up. And I think this might, no, this is not quite the last one, but this is at Ben Hartman's farm, and I wanted to point out this right here. It is a hanging spray table, which is really awesome. And it's just one of those shelves. Y'all have probably seen these shelves a bunch of times. The metal shelves that like fit over the, you know, 4 posts, and you can make them at different heights. But he hung it up, and it is easy to move when he needs to, and it is super easy to clean around. There are no legs on the floor and so you don't have to ever shift it if you're hosing down the ground or sweeping or whatever the case may be. And then just wanted to make one last plug for this idea of creating things on a human scale. So making sure that it is ergonomic. You'll see that this farmer right here stacked up some bins to put the carrots on so that they could catch the carrots, and they're there. They still look like they got a little bend in their back, but it is a much better situation than if that bin was on the floor without that stack of bins. And there are lots of wheels here. You'll see, I don't know why this picture got really blurry, but this is like a caster table, I would say. So they are able to pack their CSA shares and just kind of like roll them along to the next person. So just another example of when wheels might be beneficial to you. And this is just, if you have a pack house that has a drain, make sure it is big enough that you can clean it out easily. This drain right here, you can fit a shovel inside of it. So all the sediment that goes in the bottom, you can bring a shovel in, whatever your schedule is for cleaning it out, scoop all that dirt out and get rid of it. And then the last thing I want to say in this regard is just this idea of having good lighting. So wherever you are doing this activities, make sure it's well lit, whether that is from windows. We're in Louisiana, we get a lot of sun, so I think windows are perfectly fine. But if you are indoors, just having good light around, it makes it more enjoyable for you, and you can then see more easily if there are any issues with your product or the space that you're in. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen if that's okay with y'all. And just wanted to see if anyone had any final questions or final thoughts.
Oh, I can also I want to put my contact info if anybody wants to get in touch, and then also our Instagram account where you can take a look at other farms around New York City and get inspiration. And if you want to tune in, since everything is virtual now, to any of our workshops or events. So I'll do that before I forget.
Were there any like aha moments? Did y'all see something and you're like, dang, I want to do that right now?
I think for me, the lighting was a huge thing. That's like a really big problem with my shed that like houses all my tools. So I was like, oh, cool. I've already got my stuff at eye level. I'm doing great. And like reminded that the lighting is really bad in there. And I often have to like put in a work light or something. And yeah, I'm losing like utility knives and screwdrivers left and right. They like just fall, like just like they're sneaky. And yeah, that was a big one.
Totally.
Easy to forget to upgrade that. Like start there. Foundational.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially a lot of urban farm, whether it's a shed or a shipping container, right? It just becomes this like black abyss where everything goes in there and gets stored, and then maybe it never comes out. Erica, are you waving? You had something to say? Oh, maybe frozen.
I feel like I need to apply this to all areas of my life.
You can.
Transferable from so many different industries, and kind of wondering why the farming industry tends to seem so unorganized sometimes. And if we just get ahead of ourselves with the anticipation or excitement of just wanting to grow and succeed at growing, I know that in my own personal experience as a beginner, it's like, oh, I just want to grow. I just want to be so good at this. Look, I grew my first tomato. That, you kind of put all that planning stuff on the back burner. And so then you get ahead of yourself and like, wow, I could do this way better, way faster if I just took these steps, and I wouldn't have to redo things 1,000 times. So yeah, it's definitely eye-opening, and I'll be practicing it from here on out.
Yeah.
That hit hard. And I think when Yolanda and I first started planning this workshop, I think like the second or third call, I was like, do you think about this all the time? Because like I'm thinking about this all the time. I'm thinking about it when I like clean out the Tupperware in my house, or I just moved. So like, how am I going to set everything else up? I totally think that this can benefit your life in numerous ways. And in a way that it doesn't have to take like the joy out of what you're doing, because I'm guessing that you all farm, in some part because you like it.
Yeah. The other part of it too is yeah, it's just, it helps like using this time, downtime, the off season, to really make sure that your systems are in place, that everything is cleaned out and ready to go. And just how that can really prevent burnout, because August, September comes around and you're exhausted, and yeah, it kind of takes the joy out of farming. But more thought now and putting things in place can kind of lead to just overall more enjoyment.
Erica, were you wondering, were you hoping that other people could share contacts, or? Sorry.
Oh yeah, so something happened. I'm not the best, believe it or not, still at these Zoom interactions and like technology stuff all together. I know I'm a millennial, so it's odd, but so it logged me out, and now I can't see the things that were listed in the chat. And I know that there were some resources that were shared and contact information for a few people, and I wanted to be able to have access to that. So I said if there was a follow-up email, perhaps whatever information was in the chat could be shared in that as well.
Yeah, I'll share the emails again. I'm just going to copy and paste them. So you have our Yolanda and my contact information. I also am going to share a link right now to an evaluation. And if y'all have a few minutes to fill this out, you are the first group we did this workshop with, and we want to do this if it is useful, or like I find it useful, and I have gotten feedback that other farmers find it useful. So we would love to also get just some feedback as the first participant. So I will put that link also in the chat, and yeah, if you have a few minutes, that would be great. You'll notice at the end that there's an option to join Young Farmers mailing list. So feel free to put your name and email in there if you want to get our newsletters. We are also a membership-based organization, so y'all can become members of Young Farmers. It's $35 a year, and you get a lot of discounts. And I did just create like a tip sheet that shows all the produce safety stuff you can get with our discounts. Just another level of my nerddom, I guess. So I'm happy to talk to you about that, but just wanted to make a quick little plug. And Yolanda, did you just share the?
Yeah, but if it's been a long week and you don't want to hang around, feel free to leave. But if you want to all take a look at that video, I think it's like 3 minutes or so. I'm trying to see how long it is. But I just figured I'd put it in the chat box if you want to take a look, either now or we can do it after the call or whenever you have time. Actually 6 minutes, so.
A little longer.
Fair warning, yeah.
I think the last few thoughts I want to leave y'all with is just that like this stuff can take practice. So if it feels hard at first, please try again. And just know that, yeah, it might not come so intuitively, but the more you practice, the easier it will be. And there's also this idea within Lean, and Yolanda, maybe you can exactly explain how it fits in, but Kaizen, which is this idea of continuous improvement. So like, this is all, your farm is a work in progress, and you will probably be constantly thinking of ways in which you can do things better, safer, more efficiently. So just want to leave you with those two things in case you're feeling like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. What do y'all want to watch the video? Maybe we'll take a poll. Can you guys like put a hand up if you want to watch the video? Don't vote if you don't want to. Like, let's do it. Cool.
Maybe I can pull it up. I have it up already.
Do you want me to try since I already have host?
Yeah, that'd be great. And then just make sure that there's like a button you have to click on that says something about audio.
Okay, let's see. The voice might be off a little. This is just, we'll see how they'll like audio and video match up. That's all I wanted to say. Hold on.
That face.
Oops.
It's gotta go, sorry y'all, it's just gonna go through the
That is usually covered by her phone
advertisements.
has finally made an appearance. That face is laughing. That face is expressive.
I wonder what ad that was.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let me bring it up. Google.
Oh, we can't see it. We can only see your desktop.
Oh, sorry, maybe I shared the wrong one. Struggle City over here, y'all. Sorry. Let's see, try this again.
And I heard the audio okay that last time.
Okay, do you see the,
Now we can see it.
I think I just chose the wrong one.
I love to work, but I also like to put smiles on people's faces.
Oh, the audio's fading in and out. Wonder why.
If there's a child out there that's in need, I need to help this person out.
Is the audio not working? Is it okay? It's not the best.
It cuts in and out. I'm wondering what we can do with that.
I'm not sure. Let's give it a maybe it was my internet. Let's keep
Okay.
playing. If it's real bad, we'll just stop and y'all can watch it.
Yeah. Okay.
When we down to our last box and you have like 7 families standing on the line and you just have that one box and you don't know what exactly to do, that kills me.
George is a great leader. He knows what he's doing, but they didn't really have a system kind of set up. Because if you have a good system, I think the work takes care of itself.
We call TPS the Toyota Production System. The summation of many, many small, simple, cheap improvements can have a very big impact.
People are starting to understand that these basic principles of the Toyota Production System apply to any kind of process. It doesn't have to be a manufacturing process.
We have our way of doing it, but if there's a faster way for us to go out and give food out to people faster, then I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
What about a different box size so that we're not shipping so much air?
If we could go to a smaller box, we would have the benefit of being able to put more meals on the truck to serve more people.
The side benefit being it's not so difficult to handle. The thing that struck me was how difficult it was for the volunteers that were there to pack that box. I mean, they were walking long distances. They were carrying heavy weight. It was kind of disarray, just the table in the middle. Everybody was scrambling to get stuff open. And I'm like, this is not really too productive.
So by putting everybody on one side of the line and having the material come from the opposite, we think we're going to get a smoother flow.
Yeah, let's go for it now. I don't care if I leave work late. I don't care.
You know, I don't want you to have to walk 15 feet to go get those 2 cans of corn. I want those cans of corn to be readily available to you in the right quantity at the right place at the right time so that you can pack it in the box. Wow, this looks a lot different, doesn't it? That's cool, yeah. Does anybody remember how long it was taking us to pack one box when we first started?
3 minutes.
3 minutes? That's exactly right. It was around 3 minutes.
3 minutes for a box.
What do you think we were packing one box? How long and how many seconds today? About 11 seconds.
Kaizen is a Japanese word for continuous improvement. And what this philosophy means is we always want to strive step by step to make a process better. Outside Toyota, problem can sometimes have a negative connotation. That's a bad thing. I find that in many cases it's better to say we have something that we can improve.
Sweet.
Much faster, way faster.
Yeah.
Yes. Much faster.
Very good. We've got plenty of homework.
Yeah, plenty of homework. The list is a lot shorter than it was when we started.
How long did you guys wait?
We waited for like about a minute.
That's it?
Yeah,
That's nothing.
I know.
Unfortunately, we had sand, but there'll be other cases where this needs to be done, and hopefully you've learned some of the basic principles so you can set something up from the beginning.
One thing I did learn from these guys is how to structure things one by one, you know, not just take it as a whole thing and just be like, it's a mess, but instead I can take step by step by step.
Yay! If I was giving a training, everybody would be clapping now. That's usually how we used to do it at the state. I was just thinking, imagine if this was applied to vaccine distribution in the United States. And we think about technology, oh my gosh.
Totally.
Yeah, so many areas that we could apply this to, but that's another time.
It's called Fauci. He's not in charge of distribution, but
yeah.
Yeah, if y'all have any, if you have any reflections, and we just think that's a cool visual of what it can be like to just adopt some of these principles. There are many more too. We picked the ones that are the tools within lean farming that I don't know, I think would be easiest to start from, but you can totally build off of them and go deep into this if that's what you're feeling. So we'll put that out there.
One quick question, Maggie. Do you think that like you can take it as like in every step of the farm, so from seeding to in like how you plant, how you harvest, and literally make that, like I'm just thinking about building my own farm plan, and like I'm just gonna sit down and break down every way that I grow and all the steps that go into that, and then every way that I could potentially make those shorter, because I don't have my own farm, but in the process and the goal of doing so, pretty much applying it to just every step by step. Yeah, sorry y'all, that was just like me talking it out of my head. Yeah.
No, and I think that is what Ben Hartman does in the lean farming book for vegetable production, is he breaks down everything that he is doing on the farm. So it is way more in depth. We'll give you a lot of ideas, but I think if you can start thinking about it now, then you're going to be, when you do have your farm, you'll be ready to go.
Yeah. Cool.
It's 7:34. Thank you all for staying on. Appreciate all of you for being here. You're wonderful, and you have our contact. So if you've got any questions, please hit us up. And if you have a moment, please do the evaluation.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.